Gracious God, thank you so much for today. Thank you, God, for the opportunity we have to serve you. God, thank you for the brothers and sisters who are here. We ask your blessing on the food. We ask your blessing on the conversation. God, we know that new relationships and friendships will be made today, and even partnerships, God, and it will all be to your glory. So, God, for that we are grateful. We pray your blessing on Guy and the business that he runs, and we ask your favor upon him and everyone at Martin Harris. God, we're grateful for him just being able to share a little bit about his life and his leadership and his testimony. God, we love you, we praise you, and we give you the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, without further ado, Natalie, send me down.
I'll be singing this morning Another in the Fire. If you know this song and you want to join me out loud or in your hearts, let's just praise God together. There's a grace when the heart is under fire, another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden, and another died for me. There is another in the fire. Oh, my dead, let forget beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, either way I will bow to the things of this world. I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a grave that holds nobody. Now the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. There is another in the fire. I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness falls through him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between swerves in. I can feel the ground shaking beneath us as the prison's walls give in. Nothing's like between us. Nothing's like between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come and dwell in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. I know I will never be alone. I know I'll never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back know that's where you'll be. 'Cause I know that's where you'll be.
You probably didn't know you were coming to church today. Okay, if you'll go ahead and just share around the table. Thank you. So I'll let Guy, maybe for a couple of minutes, just that I'll be asking him, and he'll be responding, and then afterward we should have about maybe 10 minutes for Q&A. Okay, is that good? So Guy, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you very much, Robin. By the way, if anybody in the room, if Robin ever goes, hey, we'd like you to come speak, let's go to lunch and talk about it, just say yes. It'll save you lunch, you'll might get free lunch out of it, but you're not going to say no. So just hats off to it. I do have to thank my sponsor, Sean Danowski. He sponsored my breakfast this morning. He's the building group. Thank you very much, Sean, for doing that. I had a father-son breakfast with my dad this morning, and there was a Bible study going on in there. Sean could see that we had left our wallets in the truck and that we needed financial assistance. He givingly and willingly stepped in and took care of us this morning, so I've never not acknowledged the sponsor, so just want to get that out of the way. For me, I'm pretty straightforward. I'm 54 years old, born and raised in Las Vegas. Kind of a weird thing about my career, my upbringing is I've never actually received a piece of mail outside of Clark County. I mean, this is the only place I know. And being born and raised into a construction company with my dad, obviously, but even on my mother's side, my mom's side of the family was an industrial painting company. They were the first licensed industrial painting company in Southern Nevada and the oldest union signatory painting company in Southern Nevada before they had closed down due to succession issues and the like a few years ago. So, construction and building and doing stuff is in my blood. Graduated Western High School in 1987, so forgive me. Well, you graduated from Western before 87.
And Kevin, well, a couple years.
So there's a few warriors in the room, that's fine. Graduated high school in 87 and just went to work. And that's the way I was taught, that's the way I was brought up. I started working for Martin Harris Construction the summer I turned 13 years old at the Toys R Us store on the corner of Meadows Lane in Decatur. And the way that whole thing started is kind of a cool story I'll make real quick. We moved to the ranch when I was 12, bought a tractor. An 8N Ford tractor, had a box scraper on the back, a little tiny front end loader on the front. We used it around the ranch all the time. I figured out how to drive it. And then I started doing tractor jobs. I took construction paper from school. I took one of my dad's business cards. I would trace out the size, cut it out. My marketing program was very simple. I never drove past a mailbox. I didn't throw a business card in. And before you knew it, Martin's Tractor Service was alive and well. Fast forward a couple of months, I'm up early, I do my chores, and I'm at a gas station at Jones's Feed Store. Everybody know where Big Dogs is at. Well, so it's not where Jonesy's is at now, but where Big Dogs is down there on Rancho, that's where Jones's Feed used to be. My mom caught me there one morning with the tractor. That's about 4 miles from our house. And I had taken 2 metal jerry cans and baling wired them over the hood of the tractor, and I was there with a pocket full of cash filling up the gas cans because I had a tractor job that was another 3 miles away from where I was at. Long story short, my dad was given one option and one option only. If I have that much initiative, you better put him to work. And so that summer, I immediately went to work for Martin Harris. And I've held every position in the company with the exception of accounting, and you just don't want me doing that. But I'm blessed. My dad taught me some fundamentals very early, and that was watch and learn. Learn everything you can, and to be the person that people fight to be around, and to be the person on your job site that everybody fights to have on their site. And those principles I carry on and I give to my own son. My son's at college right now, but we're getting ready to work into the business and stuff as well. And so just some timeless principles, I'm sure.
Now you know a little bit about Guy, but let's talk some specifics. And by the way, Kevin, Jeff, I think Western High School started going downhill about 1987.
89, my brother graduated in 90 and was over the top by then. Just for the record.
Just question number one, Guy. And first of all, before I ask this question, I do want to recognize your dad. He's here today, and he's at the head table here. Frank Martin. Frank has spoken a couple times at CBN, and he has had the second and third largest crowds, and you're number 4, guys. So not bad. Now you guys. So next time you speak, we'll try to get some more people.
I would petition for you that the curtain is what limited it, but
Okay, here's the question. You succeeded your father, Frank, who initially built Martin Harris into a company synonymous with some of the finest quality construction projects here in Las Vegas. And you worked as an executive with your dad for many years and then took over as president after he sold it about 10 years ago. What leadership skills did you learn from your dad during the time that you ran the company that you have carried over to your tenure leading Martin Harris? And I will not repeat the question.
you guys are welcome. So leadership principles. So that's like swinging a huge club, right? I mean, everything from where do you park in the morning? How do you greet people? How often do you walk the halls? How do you shake people's hands? What are you doing it for? Leadership principles can cover everything. One thing I'll tell you that he did that I have absolutely just continued to build on and continue to develop was our company is operated by 5 simple core values. They're on the back of every single one of our business cards. They're more than just something in the hallways that you stop and read. They are actually the cornerstones of what our company is based on. And they're not just words. Honesty, integrity, mutual trust, respect, cooperation, creating the best place for our associates and clients to achieve their goals. I mean, all 5 of the core values are all woven into our DNA. The hurdle of it is that can you actually run a company completely sold out and compliant to your core values? That's a hard question, because if you truly run a zero tolerance lifestyle around those 5 core values, I should be fired when I get back from this, because it's hard. The world's still involved in my business. The outside forces of the world are still involved with what I do every day. So do I stub my toe? Yes. Do I stumble and fall? All the time. The reason I still have my job with those 5 core values is because I've never stopped trying. I never stopped trying to lift somebody up and come alongside somebody and make somebody better for their time that they have spent at our company. That, I think, is the leadership principle. I remember distinctly one night sitting in my dad's office and we were talking about legacy. And I'm not going to use church names or anything, but there was a group approaching him to join an elder board and to become an elder of the church. And then he turned it down. And it happened multiple times, multiple churches. But I remember this one time I asked him, why not? Why wouldn't you? And he says, son, I touch and minister more lives sitting behind this desk than I would ever touch as an elder of a church. And sometimes you have to stop long enough to recognize the ministry that you've been handling. And that's touched me every day. Every single day I walk in that door, I jokingly say that, I go do the same thing everybody else does. I pull the key fob out, and if the light turns green, I'm just as happy as everybody else. I say that not true. I'm my own way I get in my office. But the reality of it is, I never want to stop feeling that way. My dad never stopped feeling that way. If there was hurt, if there was pain, if there was suffering in the office, he addressed it, he took it on head on. Growing pains are just what happens. I don't care if you're talking about your faith, your family, or your career. Growing pains should be embraced, should be pressed on, and if you fall forward. All of those basic principles on how you operate, those are all just thumbprints. And I shouldn't say thumbprints, those are dents in my character. Because so many times I've had to be picked up and put back on the track, and that leaves a dent, not a thumbprint, because I come off pretty hard. So, just being willing to help build people, being willing to be vulnerable enough, being approachable, all of those things. Anybody that's ever spent 20 minutes with Frank knows that you can share your soul with him, and most of you have. It's worthwhile. And so to be that person, to be that most sought after person in that business environment is sometimes a challenge, but yet something that we definitely do at Martin Harris. And when I say we, it is a collective. One of the coolest things, and we might have another question about this later if you want to talk about business and the sell and buyout and all of that stuff. One of the coolest things about our succession and our transition when we were acquired was nobody left. Absolutely nobody left. We were the least documented, least written about large-scale construction sell or transaction in Southern Nevada. Certainly. Never got called into the press. One article in the New York Times, and that was a press release that the acquiring capital company put out. It wasn't even us. Why? Nobody left. Well, there's nobody running for our company. We have to create that culture, and that's really what I've been striving to carry on. I think I've managed the company now, or been leading the company for 7 years, and we sold about 8.5 years ago. That's awesome.
Thank you. Martin Harris was founded more than 45 years ago by your dad, and I think that's worth a round of applause right there. 45 years. You don't see too many companies last that long. And it's not just has lasted, but it's thriving. But the way business was handled back then is probably a little different than the way business is handled in 2023. So, Guy, what ways did you bring innovation into the way that your company does business and the community you serve?
So, a couple of things that we do as a team very, very deliberately. And I do consider it an innovation. Construction historically has always thought of business development as the old carpenter that can't swing the hammer anymore, that knows how to build something, that might know a little bit something about how to estimate it and can talk a good game and sell a deal. One of the big changes we made, and this even predated the transaction and predated Frank leaving, was we changed the face of business development. We realized that the day and age of the elderly guy that's can't get another job or has been at some place. I'll use a gaming facility for an example. He's worked his way all the way up. He's now got a vice president title in front of him. He's making huge amounts of money, big six figures, the whole thing. When the recession hit, those gaming entities figured out that dude, A, we can't build anything. B, he's expensive. And C, when I can afford to build something, I can replace him with somebody else for about 1/10 the money or half the money, right? So they let all these people go. Well, who took their place? A bunch of young millennial guys and Gen Xers that walked into these spots. They're not driving down the huge salaries, but they're making huge decisions. And so they didn't want to talk to a guy like me anymore. They didn't want to talk to a guy like Frank or Ray Newmill or Paul Toplak or any of the guys that are doing what we do. They don't want to talk to them anymore. So Paul and I contrived a plan where we went out and hired probably, to my knowledge, the first female business development person in the construction industry in Southern Nevada. And she is unbelievable. Now Frank got her fired from her previous employer, which is a great story, but Christmas is coming, so I don't know if I should tell that story or not. But I know who funds Christmas in our house. My mom does the shopping, my dad pays for it. It's been that way for 50 years, so after April or so, I stopped poking fun at him. So maybe another time, but she's turned out to be a huge innovation. It just changes the way everybody thinks about how you make connections, how do you do marketing, how do you do networking, how do you get somebody to take a call when they wouldn't. She's hugely creative and just completely plugged into the market and the industry in a way that, quite candidly, when Paul and I sat down and we come up with the wacky idea to do this, I would have never in a million years thought that it would have been the success level that it is now. Fast forward 7 years now, and she was just promoted to a vice president in our company over business development. So Innovation at the get work side of things is where we've always prided ourselves, either in our estimating department or business development.
Yeah, you're a believer in Jesus. Amen. And that carries with it, of course, a certain responsibility to exemplify God on the job, in your role. How do you practice your faith, and how do you keep accountable with the people that you lead?
Well, so first off, accountability is in the mirror every morning. There's nobody in my office that I have ordained or asked to be responsible for my own accountability to my faith. I find it hard to look myself in the mirror when I'm not in alignment with my faith. And if I'm truly that honest and truly that vulnerable, usually I can plumb myself up pretty fast. In our business, in construction specifically, and I'm sure in many other businesses in the room, in our business, there's kind of this air of dishonesty, or almost like this expectation, or this thought process that there's always got to be a backroom deal, there's a dark handshake someplace, there's always something wacky and kooky happening. And what I can tell you is our company has proven that you can build a huge organization anchored in Christian principles. One of our cornerstones to our company's growth, we have 5 cornerstones to our growth that we put together a number of years ago, and one of them is to cause no suffering. And I think that's a Christian principle, right? I don't think there's any place I've stumbled across in the Bible, and I'm willing to be wrong. Actually, I'm pretty good at it. I don't think there's a spot where it says suffering's okay. I don't think that's what we're supposed to do. So, you know, everything that we try to put together, a program, every associate development program, from associate developments to training, it's all about prevention of suffering in our company. And I think when you are about building up other people and preventing suffering, and you celebrate, I think the Christian principles just align, and it's not as hard as people think. You know, one thing I do say is that our business plan is have fun, make money. The order is important. That is our entire business plan. That is the whole thing that runs $600 million. That's it. That's as hard as we make it. That's even a Christian principle. I don't think if it's hard, it's right. I think if it's easy, it's right. I think if you pray about it and you follow the path and you listen to your heart and you see the message and you hear and you truly pour into it, it's just not as hard as we make it out to be. So I think the Christian principles of how our family started the business, how we've institutionalized the Christian principles into our company. I don't think there's plenty of people in this room that have been in our office. I don't think you can make it past the lobby without feeling. You can hear the hum in the hallways. The neat thing about our office is that you hear pain, and that's okay. When people are hurting, people are suffering, we all have loss. We have people that lose loved ones. We have people that have child that battles with their children. We have people that have battles with their own family. You hear that too. And I think that is as much a testimony to, I'm not going to tell you that it's all wine and roses. You walk up and down the hallway and it's nothing but, fist bumps and high fives. They're suffering. We have an office of 94. We have 331 or 332 people as of Monday. They're suffering. And I think our values and our principles outline how we respond and behave to that suffering.
So people will suffer, but you don't want to create.
Not in our hands.
And by the way, you heard that. Have fun, make money.
The order is important.
Thank you, guys. Last question before we open it up to questions from all of you. What traits could you share with the other business leaders, ministry leaders who are here today, and that have served you well in the process of both transitioning from employee to employer and growing an organization like Martin Harris to the next level?
So, I don't know how many business owners there are in the room, and I'm not one. At one point in time in my life, I thought I was going to be one, and in a very close and passionate moment of fellowship between my father and I knew that wasn't going to happen, but I was going to make sure that he got everything out of the transaction of the company as possible. And I just had faith that my spot in the ascension to lead the company was going to be protected, and that was an absolute job one for my dad. what I would tell you is that there are two different kinds of plans that every entrepreneur has to have. You have to have a continuation plan first, and then a succession plan, and they're different. When those two touch each other, it's bad. Continuation is what happens if you get hit by a car. Succession is what happens when you retire. Vastly different plans. I believe that probably 4 years before we were approached by the capital company that took on our company, unbeknownst, I don't even think it was called out, I think that was outlined definitively. We had a written continuation plan before we went on the market. We knew who was going to take over if something happened to Frank. We knew how my mom was going to get taken care of. We knew how the family was going to get taken care of. We knew who was ascending to what positions, whose hands were going to be on the steering wheel day one if something happened to Frank. Continuation. I think that's imperative. If you want to make your small business really, really appealing to capital, have a continuation plan in your business plan. Okay? If you're asking somebody to invest in your small business, tell them who's going to make sure that they get their money back when something happens to you. Please do that. The second one was succession. Now that one was a bit more sticky because there are some people that have been riding for the brand for a very long time, aspiring for a spot at the top of the org chart. And at some point in time, it's incumbent on the entrepreneur to thin that herd. And I know it was not an easy move for my dad to make that change. There were two of us, senior vice president and vice president, and we were both running for the same position and the same role in the company, going into just putting our company on the market. We weren't even on the market yet. And he had to make a tough decision. And so having that outline of what clear succession looks like, even if you're a small business, you're a husband and wife family, a husband and wife business, and something happens to the wife, what does the husband do? That's as much succession or continuation, make sure those plans are worked out. Those tough conversations are way, way important when life happens. And in life, two definitions. Obviously, once somebody passes away, somebody physically leaves the earth and goes home to be with Jesus. Life, the second definition, somebody walks in and offers you more money than you would have ever thought your place was worth, and you have to say yes. But you don't want to hurt anybody when you do. So having that succession plan, we knew that when we got our affairs right, God delivered a phone call to Frank, Paso Robles, California. He gets a phone call from a guy, introduces himself, and just simply says, "How much longer do you want to do this?" That's where the whole thing started, was from a cold call. That's where the whole deal started. But but we'd been for sale for 2 years prior to that, or a year prior to that, and not a single phone call, serious phone call, not one. Why? Our affairs were in order. If you're wondering why the next step's not coming to you in your business at any level, look in the mirror. There's something you're dodging or avoiding, you're not putting in place, you're not taking care of. That's God protecting you from yourself. The minute that our affairs were in order, phone rang in Paso Robles. We went through the first 5 or 6 months. We flew up to Salt Lake a couple times, came back down. They were just us. It was easy. But the big thing that we had to do was get our affairs in order and have our stuff straight before the blessings came.
So you're saying the sale of Martin Harris was a God thing?
At every level. At every level. It's really funny because when my dad sat my brother and I down and said, "This is what we're going to do. We're flying to Salt Lake. We're going to meet these people. We're going to go to this dinner, blah, blah, blah." We come back from dinner, we sit down, and we debrief everything. And we're like, "Look, they're just us, 10 years older than us. Literally, they're 10 years older than us. Same values, same everything aligns." And then fast forward like 4 months, and it's progressing, and my dad looks at me and goes, "I think I can get more money." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I think so-and-so would give us an offer." And I said, "You've been handed everything you professed you wanted. Everything. This is a test." And we stayed the course. we rode that horse. And he got every single person in our company stayed. One guy left, and he would have left either way because his dream job came available. And so one guy did leave us, but everybody else that was there, pre-sale, is there right now.
Frank, stay the course. Right? We have time for just a few questions, and I'm going to have Janine, who's on our board, Janine Wells, hand the microphone to you. So, ready to go?
Well, Kenny, do I need a mic?
I'm going to ask a question while I'm walking over here. Where'd you get your belt buckle?
So, thank you very much for that. It's a funny story. My absolute, hands down, favorite superhero is my mother.
Yes.
Okay? I'm going to give emotions because I love my mom. Probably 10 years ago, my mother rides a horse or two. She's won a buckle or two. And 10 years ago, we started a tradition where her and I would sit underneath the stairs at our house on Christmas, and we would open up the box, this like literally pirate's chest that she had all the buckles in from the year before. And we go through, and my mom can look at the front of a buckle and she can tell you the horse she rode, how many cows she cut, what her score was. She knows it solid.
Wow.
And so I would always ask her to give me a buckle to wear that whole next year. So the tradition on Christmas is I bring my buckle down, I give it to my mom, she gives me another one from that year. That collection is way extensive now. So I have been wearing my mother's buckles for probably 10 years or more. For our 45th company anniversary, the executive board at Martin Harris got together and had a custom buckle made for me to celebrate our 45th anniversary, me being president and leading the company. And so that's the buckle I wear today. But that's where the belt buckle thing comes from. It all starts with my mom, and we still trade buckles. My son wears my mom's buckles, and we'll trade. My nieces and nephews wear my mother's buckles, and we'll trade and everything. And it's like trading a Bonnie Martin rookie card, you know, for World Series card. It's pretty cool.
Good stuff. Guy, you mentioned suffering a few times, and we know that any successful business person has been through some tough times, some dark times where it seems like, how am I going to get out of here? Could you share, one of those tough times and how you made it through it?
Which one? Current day, my leadership, since the time that I've taken over from my dad. My dad and I have one-to-ones from time to time on business stuff. Not as many now as we did, but when the sale first went through, it was pretty much every week, every other week. And one of the toughest conversations that I ever had with him, and he probably doesn't even remember it, he accused me of losing the company's culture. He said that we were doing too many new initiatives, moving too fast, doing things in a different way, and that our culture was at risk of being lost. And that just destroyed me. It was on my list. I had a physical list of things I was not going to allow to leave. The values, the culture, the care for the family, all of the stuff that I've been around my whole career. And he called me out on it. And hurt me. That hurt really, really bad. I will be completely honest. I will tell you, prayer is not where I turned first. It's where I ended up, but it's not where I went first. I was angry. I was freaking mad. Fast forward like 2 weeks, and I'm in my prayer cycle on it, and I'm working through it, and I'm trying to figure it out and everything. And we win some award, some community achievement award. And I get an email from my dad that says I'm wrong. The culture is alive and well and growing. You're just approaching it differently than I did. Good job. So that's those times. I mean, everybody's heard the term, it's lonely at the top, right? Lonely at the top. You run out of people that you can share your problems with and ask their advice who don't weigh their own benefit in their response first. You just run out of them. There's none up there. My most cherished partner in my business is Paul Toplak. He's my chief operating officer. He's been with us 18, 19 years now. Hired him out of Canada. I would trust him with anything. But I also know some things are unfair to ask him because he weighs his own future in the answer. It just happens. So the placing prayer in the process is an imperative. Because that's one spot. That's one spot we'll never get to that top level where Jesus sits. So he can always minister to us. Myself in a completely different room, going, what the hell just happened here? And I know. He knows that there's not room for him up here if I don't have a plan, then he can take the whole plan and throw it away, and now there's room. So there's a whole process that goes on between my ears that's kind of scary. But it's hard. You just have to continue to have faith.
Beautiful.
Oh, I just want everybody to hear it. Here we go. So this one's maybe more for Frank than it is for me. I got a great nephew in Pahrump, and he started an excavating business by yanking his dad's Kubota out of the shed and heading down the road. Never put fuel in it. I hear you bought fuel. At least you bought fuel. Did he ever pay you a lease of that tractor when you made that money?
No, I did not. Second core value, honesty and integrity.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Funny story though, is when I got a flat tire from a nail, I knew how to find a bigger nail and a tube of silicone to fix the tire. So when he actually did have to send the tire guy out to fix it, it looked like the streets of Beirut. He was just pulling out nail after nail after nail. So I knew how to keep my tractor running, but yeah, I think I blew it up once. I ran it out of oil. There was a whole saga around the tractor thing. So it was cheaper for him for me to go to work than to stay around the house.
Well, thanks for sharing all your wishes. It's actually been a really good lightning evening. But I did want to ask specifically, you mentioned about like Gen X's and millennials, because obviously that's the new workforce. We've all seen that there's a difference in culture, a difference in values as we see these transitions. The big question I have is, if you're trying to make sure that there's no suffering, how are you balancing disciplinary actions among people who are making poor decisions, who then feel that you're inflicting suffering onto them because they have a different worldview?
Here, so please have a little grace and mercy on me. I love millennials. I love them. They're my favorite people out there. Do you know why? It's the largest collection of untapped loyalty anywhere in our country.
Wow.
All they want is free shit and a hug. If you be their parents for a minute, give them all the stuff that you sit in. A lot of people sit in a very self-righteous chair and say, your parents cheated you, your parents should have, your parents could have, and every one of you can, and don't. Millennials are misused, misunderstood. They're not victims. It's not like that. Okay? Make no mistake, they're smart. They're way more intelligent than anybody in this room. Way more intelligent. And they figured out how to weaponize that intelligence because we're just smart. They're intelligent. There's a difference. Millennials love structure. They love discipline. They don't love judgment. Okay? We don't judge. There are 5 core values. There's nothing in our handbook. Our company's handbook is only 31 pages. It was probably only 25 pages when Frank had it. Life changes, right? So we have 31 pages. Nothing in our handbook gets you fired. Nothing. Violate something in the core values, I promise you, or in the handbook, you violated a core value, you're available to industry. That's how it works. Millennials love the structure. They just want somebody to love on them and believe in them. And if you only want to sit back and bitch, and you only want to sit back and say, well, as soon as you figure out to work harder, I'll make a spot for you. I'm just telling you right up front, you will not win that battle. They are better waiters than you are. Okay? I am so disappointed in my generation for not recognizing millennials within our company, in a company of 300. Why? Because I love on them. I have 3 things on my job description. I'll close with this. This is my job description. 30% of my time winning work. I kind of know our company's story, kind of have a compelling argument, kind of good at it. I win work. Another 30%, the business of construction. Banking, bonding, insurance, all that stuff is way complicated. That's my job. 30% of my time, business of construction. My favorite part of my job, deliberately, 30% of my time is spent loving on my people. I love the associates of Martin Harris Construction. If you don't legitimately love the people that are in your employ, you're only borrowing them, and they will be to work for somebody like me soon. It's just fact. Create a better environment, you get better people. By the way, 30-30-30, that's 90, 10% of my life I spend managing Frank. That's another part. Thank you guys very much.
It's a good thing you closed with that.
Guy, thank you for that very, very inspiring talk. And just to interpret, I think he said free stuff. So just